I'll introduce Deacon Kerry Scarlett as well, current Vice President of Methodist Conference. So Tim, I'll pass over to you.
Fabulous. Thank you very much, Finn, and good evening, friends. It's really good to be gathered today on this virtual space, and may, as Jill has prayed, may this be a warm and safe space for you, as well as a space in which we can create warmth and safety for those we work with around the world. Kerry, good evening. It's really lovely to see you.
Good evening. Thank you so much for inviting us to be part of this. It's wonderful to be here.
Excellent, thank you. And as Jill hinted at during her session, this evening is not the first time you've heard some of Jeremiah's story and some of the story of Shift's incredible work in Liberia. Don't want you to kind of give any spoilers away, Kerry, but still, I do think that one of the things that we reflected on when you did get to have a virtual trip to Liberia, one of the things we reflected on was some of the similarities between the kind of work Jeremiah's involved in, the kind of work All We Can's doing, and some of your own commitment to and interested in community organising, community groups here in the UK. Do you want to just reflect for a little minute for us on some of those similarities and how that might be part of what we do this evening?
Absolutely. I mean, for me, that was one of the greatest joys of that whole virtual experience. And I will try and avoid spoilers, but as you know, it was just such an encouragement and a blessing to hear those stories shared. So alongside being Vice President, I, in my current role as part of the Methodist Learning Network, do a lot of work with churches who are really interested to think about how they can begin to build or rebuild relationships within their church, within their community. For some, actually, COVID and lockdown just highlighted how maybe fragmented or fragile those relationships had become. So I do a lot of work using practices that we call faith-rooted community organising, and they're absolutely nothing new. We've just given it a fancy name for the way in which the early church flourished, for the way in which early Methodism flourished, and practices which are about us taking time to carefully listen to God, to one another and our communities, you know, not rushing in thinking we know best, but listening and discerning together, gathering people together to discern next steps. You know, it's not about being a hero or a rescuer. God works in and through all of us as we walk humbly with God. And then how we can recognize the gifts and skills that God has given everyone and use those as we work together, use that shared power to act for change. And I heard all of those beautiful things in the stories that Jeremiah and his colleagues shared, and all the amazing things that had emerged.
Yeah, wonderful. Thanks, Kerry. And I think that's one of the things kind of we're really excited about at All We Can, is recognizing that the sort of thing we've been passionate about for well over a decade now is becoming something that's being picked up by lots of people in lots of different places. Just reflect for us for a minute, Kerry, on how you see this kind of way of thinking about putting community at the heart of change. How do you think that's changing who we are as Christians, who we are as church, how we behave?
It's a really good question. I think that for me, we're really being perhaps led by God to return to that idea of walking humbly with God. You know, those beautiful words of from Micah that we as Methodists helped shape our thinking around being a justice-seeking church. So this idea that actually we walk humbly with God, and sometimes God prompts us to do things in unexpected ways with unexpected people in unexpected places. Sometimes we need to do that careful listening and being with. We're invited to return to the way that the things that Jesus modeled for us. So when we look at the gospel stories, we see Jesus coming alongside and being with people, having conversations with people that enabled them to speak. And often Jesus remains silent or just asks questions and then lets people talk for themselves. And you can hear that kind of sense of their own journey and self-discovery and that excitement that they want to share with their community, the transformation taking place. I think we're rediscovering that. I think we're being led to rediscover what it means to recognize that sometimes we do have power, And for me as a deacon called to servant ministry, this is a really difficult thing to wrestle with, because we like to think that we're serving, but sometimes the way we serve, we think we're helping, but we're not, because we're not listening to what people are saying they really need. We're putting our own idea about what help we think is needed. And I think we're really being called back to be really discerning about what it means just to set things aside and listen and be with.
Thanks very much, Kerry. And that feels so much like the heart, the invitation that's at the heart of the kind of work All We Can's been involved in for many years now.